As I left the Jehovah's Witness religion, I discovered that there are many different types of people that leave. There's the ones that left because they no longer believe in the religion, and then there's ones that still believe but never critically examined the scriptures. And there's many other people that fall somewhere in between. I recently had a conversation with someone who believes in the Jehovah's Witness theology, but had never understood where the beliefs originated. This individual was out of the religion for personal reasons, not scriptural reasons. So I asked them, how can you believe wholeheartedly that this is the truth if you haven't studied the Bible for yourself outside of your standard Jehovah's Witness routine? This is an important question because I believe it gets to the root of why so many Jehovah's Witnesses are able to mold their life to this controlling group in an effort to support God, all the while not proving to themselves whether or not the scriptures in Jehovah's Witness philosophy are being applied correctly. I believe that the reason Jehovah's Witnesses are so willing to believe the religion without thinking critically has much to do with how they are raised. There are two main tactics being used to mold young Jehovah's Witnesses as they grow up: direct indoctrination and subtle indoctrination. As we examine direct indoctrination, I will first mention an avenue of direct indoctrination, followed by how often or how much time went into these things. Some avenues will only be mentioned briefly for now, as we'll go into more details when we talk about subtle indoctrination. I will also include a clip that is created specifically for children. Most of these clips are made to make children be complacent in the indoctrination. They are also trying to make these children believe that the JW routine can be fun. As an ex-member, I can tell you these tactics worked. I at times thought I had the best life ever. I mean, that's what I was always told anyways.
Come with me, you'll see this is the best life ever.
Let's start our examination of the Jehovah's Witness routine indoctrination, the direct indoctrination. We're going to start with meetings. Meetings were the regular gatherings to study the Bible. It's what most religions would phrase as going to church. There is currently one meeting on the weekend that has an interactive watchtower study and a public talk. One meeting during the week that is full of platform talks, demonstrations, Bible readings, and interactive discussions. Children are encouraged to pay attention and participate when appropriate. These meetings take nearly 2 hours each.
Paying attention at the meetings can help save your life.
At Genesis 6:22, we read, "And Noah did according to all that God had commanded him. He did just so."
Most witnesses went in service every weekend. Some did more, depending on their circumstances. If you were a regular pioneer, you had to do up to 70 hours, and some pioneers would take their children out before they went to school. When we would go out to preach about the Bible, there was no age. Most of us were taken in strollers, even when we were babies. While preaching, we would continually re-indoctrinate ourselves by attempting to indoctrinate others.
What do you need for service? Very good! You need your Bible for service. Do you need anything else? Kids, can you help Sophia? Which one does she need for service?
Magazines!
That's right, kids! Sophia, one more thing. How will you remember the people we meet? Very good! Do you have a pencil? Excellent, Sophia. I think you're all set. Kids, what do you think? Is she ready?
Yes!
Okay, let's go practice what you're gonna say.
Assemblies and conventions. These were special days full of information, surrounded with fellow believers in unity. These would be full days of continual indoctrination. We had 2 assemblies each year, one that was a one-day assembly, one that was 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, and a 3-day convention every year, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Most people had to take time off of work or school.
It's time for another convention. Yes, that's right, another year has gone by. Are you ready? Before you head out, here's a few important reminders to help make this a safe and enjoyable convention for everyone. The doors open each morning at 8 a.m. You won't be able to enter or save seats before this time. Now, of course, it's always exciting to arrive at the convention, anticipating what spiritual gems await. But when it's time to...
Sounds like a...
Whoa! Maybe we should...
Family worship was a weekly program that was highly pushed. You were encouraged to sit down with your family to study a topic that may be beneficial to your family's needs. This could involve any personal struggles, like if your young child is talking too much to non-believers at school, or general application, like a study of an old watchtower. Some families watched the monthly broadcast or just read a portion from the Bible. There was no specific rules for what to go over each week, as long as it was focusing on Jehovah God, aka Jehovah's Witness theology. The person who decides what to study is the head of the household, which is a fancy way of saying that he has a... All members of the family of any age were expected to attend this family worship, as long as they lived in the house. There was no way of the other members of the congregations to know if you were actually doing your family worship or not, but it was essentially expected.
So do what you can to make sure that your family feels relaxed and happy, and that your family worship reflects the kind of happy and joyful God that Jehovah is. Remember, your family will often remember more about how they felt during family worship than maybe the exact details of what they learned. Keep worshiping Jehovah as a family. Make your family worship consistent, enjoyable, and meaningful.
Personal study. You were encouraged to study on your own, regularly, on any topic within the Bible or within the books published by Jehovah's Witnesses. There was no limit to how much study you should be doing on your own, but the general recommendation was as much as you could. You could study on anything that piqued your personal interest, or if you're having any unclean thoughts that you might need to be working on, it would definitely be recommended that you started doing some personal study and those types of things. As a child, I remember being encouraged to look at the My Book of Bible Story book anytime that I was bored. As I would get a little bit older, I was encouraged to read the Young People Ask book. This book was full of topics like, what can I wear? Should I care about my mental health? Why am I afraid to share my faith at school? How can I explain the Bible's view on homosexuality? Are we really ready for marriage? Remember, this book is designed for young people. Study for meetings. Meetings were outlined, so you were encouraged to be prepared for these meetings. Read the information ahead of time. Now remember, preparing for meetings didn't count as your personal study. Those two things were supposed to be separate. You should also read your Bible every day, as well as the daily text every day, as well as prayers every day. These are all direct forms of indoctrination, and what these direct forms of indoctrination do is remove time out of your life. So I began to wonder, how much time? I did a breakdown where I calculated how much time I spent being indoctrinated before I got baptized. I got baptized at the age of 14, and I decided to underestimate all numbers in an effort for fairness. I spent approximately 2,770 hours at meetings by the age of 14. For service, I approximated 1,350. This is approximately 8 hours per month. This is likely very underestimated, as many of my family members were pioneers, and I would go along with them when I was a child. Spent approximately 670 hours at assemblies and conventions. Spent approximately 335 hours in family worship. This is probably a pretty poor example of family worship. My family wasn't the best at it, We only did it approximately twice a month. And I did approximately 770 hours of personal study and preparation for meetings. I did not include or count numbers for the daily text, association in the hall, Bible readings, assignments, talks, cleanup days, falling asleep to Bible tapes, drama tapes, and other Watchtower recordings, parents reading to me as a child, getting a much higher average in service when I was in my teens. I did not include these because it would be impossible to estimate exactly how much time was dedicated to any of these individual subjects. But even without all these other things, even underestimating all numbers, I received approximately 5,895 hours of direct indoctrination by the age of 14. That is approximately 245 days, or just over 8 months. As a Jehovah's Witness, all your thoughts revolve around Jehovah, his organization, and how you can set an example, and, most of all, keeping Satan's influence out. We could talk for hours about how your mind is always wrapped up in JW culture, but I decided to break it down into 4 categories, starting with conscience matters. When you watch a show, you need to decide if it was a show Jehovah would approve of, but it doesn't end there. If you wanted to talk about that show with a friend, you needed to decide if it felt safe to bring it up, because your friend may have a more sensitive conscience than you. And if your brother got offended, you may be bad association. TV, books, music, these are all conscience matter. Every channel you flip, every song that comes on the radio, and every page that you turn, you are always on high alert for Satan's influence. Some things I would look out for when I was trying to consume media is sexual situations, even in music, violence, spiritism, any forms of magic, drugs, excess partying, and strong language. Some shows didn't bother my conscience, but what if my family walks in? Would this bother them? Should I even watch it if it has the potential to offend? These are things that many young Jehovah's Witness children would have to think about. These are the questions I would ask myself when I was in elementary school. Worldly associations. It was hammered into my head as a child. Schoolmates, or workmates if you're that old, are not friends. They are acquaintances. People we pass occasionally we are friendly with, but they can't be our friends. How could they if they aren't friends of God? If I had told my parents a story from school and accidentally called a classmate my friend, that would be a teaching moment for my parents.
Gotcha, bitch!
Remember, young JW Edgy, we need to be careful of our association. Bad association spoils useful habits. This statement would shake me to my core as a young child. I remember in 1st or 2nd grade, a kid in my class told me that I was his best friend. This set alarms in my head. I knew that I was in danger. I said, "I'm sorry, we can't be friends because you're not a witness." I'm sure this kid had no idea what I meant. I was trying to say, you're not God's friend. This poor kid likely just wanted a friend. Unfortunately, he tried to be friends with a young, little Jehovah's Witness boy. I wonder how that affected him. But what if a Jehovah's Witness had a lapse in conscience? Let's say you read the Harry Potter books. Yes, this was forbidden to Jehovah's Witnesses. If you had this form of lapse in conscience and you brought that Harry Potter book to your house, this is how you let the demons in. It was not unusual for Jehovah's Witness parents to go through their children's belongings, phones, or even trash to find items that could allow the demons to enter the home. If they found such an item and blamed it on their children, this could cause anxiety, causing fear of the demons, fear of TV, fear of music, movies, books, making you think even more on how Satan is everywhere. And we must always be on guard. You are always thinking about the indoctrination. Your part on God's war. That's right. At 5 years old, you're at war in Jehovah's Witnesses' eyes, either for Satan or for Jehovah. According to JW philosophy, Satan challenged God's right to rule. So as we unselfishly choose to follow God's laws, we are being used to prove Satan wrong, prove him a liar. We were never alone though. Jehovah, Jesus, and the angels are all watching. cheering us on. This is a sentiment that I had heard many times. This was always in my head as a child. I remember anything that I did at school, if I preached, refused a birthday cupcake, sat outside of the class during a holiday party or a birthday, I felt that Jehovah and the angels were proud, watching. Meanwhile, Satan and the demons are also watching. This would cause me a lot of anxiety as a child. I felt every little mistake I made was making Satan happy. I was told that Satan couldn't read minds like Jehovah could, but he was very observant. If something bad or sinful excited me, Satan can tell. He sees your heartbeat increase. He sees your face. So get those thoughts out of your head so Satan doesn't use that info in the future to tempt you. As if the demons had a notebook writing down all my weaknesses. These thoughts of making Jehovah happy and not giving Satan an inch always plagued me. Keep Jehovah and his organization on your mind at all times so Satan doesn't sneak in. Your inflated ego. Jehovah's Witnesses create little narcissists without even realizing it. As a young Jehovah's Witness, your parents take you in the ministry. As soon as you're able to talk, most parents will teach you a simple presentation or something simple that you can tell the person at the door. Regardless of the homeowner's beliefs, they are often very kind to children. When the child is in service and they say their little presentation and the householder is kind, this makes the young children feel very good and have a positive association with service at a young age. Parents and the others in the congregation also inflate this feeling as they tell the child how good they did in between the doors. As children age, they start to hear sayings like, "At your young age, you know more about the Bible than all the adults in the world." I recall that being very encouraging to me. At 10, I do have the right to talk to these adult strangers because I know more than them. What an ego stroke.
Hi, my name's Caleb. What's your name?
Hi, Caleb. My name is...
If you felt love-bombed in service, just wait until you commented at the meeting. When you can first speak, your parents usually have kids say a short comment. Might be a one word, like Jehovah, or prayer, or a longer phrase, like Jehovah is God. I've personally heard comments from toddlers as young as 2 years old. In some congregations, after a young child comments, the congregation may clap. After meeting, many in the congregation would love bomb the children. What a great comment. You did such a good job making Jehovah so proud. I'm not sure how old I was, my first comment, but I know it was well before I went to school. From personal experience, this inflated my young ego. A little person was developing a very big head. This really can feed in for many Jehovah's Witnesses as they grow older into narcissistic tendencies. You begin to think that what you say is actually important, assuming it's about Jehovah God. So if you want to be heard or respected as a child, talk about Jehovah more. And if you want to talk about Jehovah more, well, you better be informed, so you better study more. And there you go, right back to direct indoctrination. See how it all ties together seamlessly? Soon after I went to school, I was encouraged to join the Theocratic Ministry School Education. This is an internal teaching program that teaches Jehovah's Witnesses how to teach, aka indoctrinate. The way they do this is by assigning you with a part to share during the midweek meeting. For a young brother, your first part is likely going to be doing a Bible reading, which is where you read a selected portion of the Bible to the congregation from the stage. You are assigned this Bible reading or any other part typically a few weeks in advance so you have time to practice. When you are given this assignment, you are also given homework, which they call counsel points. These can be on how to read fluently, where to add inflections, when to pause for emphasis, etc. When you perform your assignments for the first time, especially as a child, most congregations will have an applause. This is the first ego boost when giving a talk, but that is nothing compared to the ego boost you get when you are love-bombed after the meeting, just like when you commented. After doing your part, an elder will ask you if you studied your counsel point, that homework. If you did, you're going to get a good job and probably a little bit more ego boost. But if you didn't, you can see the disappointment in the brother's face. At least I did. And I felt ashamed whenever I had to tell him, no, I didn't do my assignment. You might be assigned that assignment again for emphasis. It's almost as if you're forced to learn how to indoctrinate others, all the while indoctrinating yourself. This all starts for many around the age of 5, for some even younger. The Jehovah's Witness yearbook was a book full of experiences, usually of someone that was considered a good example. Some of these examples were of young children making a stand for Jehovah. I remember reading these examples and thinking, that could be me. I wanted my name in that book. I wanted so desperately to be someone that helped people stay on the good path, someone encouraging for other Jehovah's Witnesses. This simple book, along with my young pride, encouraged me to follow Jehovah's Witness rules even more strictly so that I could be that person in the book. I never made it to that book, so I made a YouTube channel instead. Like, share, comment to fulfill my dreams. Bonus. These don't necessarily fit into the other 3 categories, so I just decided to make them their own. Prayers. We did these before meals, even in public, even if schoolmates thought that we were weird. Once again, as a young Jehovah's Witness being set apart from everyone else. Also told to do this during any stressful time and before bed. So before we went to bed, Jehovah and his organization was on our mind, as well as apologizing for our sin, making us feel low, realizing that we make so many mistakes that we truly owe Jehovah God. Spiritual goals. We were supposed to always be reaching to do better. What you're doing isn't good enough. Your best isn't good enough. We should always have goals. We have milestones to only go further. This really kept us thinking how small we were and how much more we can do. If there's anything that you think I should have added to this list, please tell me in the comments, as I'm sure we could converse on this forever. There is no way to fully capture every way that we were indoctrinated as children, but realizing some of the ways that it happened can definitely help us to settle the feeling of being tricked, can help heal some anxieties that we didn't understand the source of, and most importantly, can help us grow and move on. As a child, you had the responsibility of fighting against Satan, the devil. You may have been the cause of bringing the demons into the house from your parents' viewpoint. What anxieties that might have caused you? You couldn't have friends at school, or you felt guilty if you did. Maybe you were the victim of shunning. Or maybe you feel guilty because you shunned others. You were force-fed information without learning how to question. You were told your anxieties and your questions were from the devil, and your mental health was likely not considered. And yet, you survived. You'll get through this. We'll all get through this together. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.